can't believe you, cuz. On God, I can't believe you, cuz. It ain't nothing with you. Like, bro, you better not come try to get these chains. None of it, cuz. On God, you gon', bro, we gonna have a real problem.
Yo Gucci Mane, one of the most respected label bosses in hip-hop history, got caught slipping in the worst way possible. His artist just died. The body wasn't even cold yet. And instead of being the stand-up OG everybody thought he was, he sent a message asking for his chain back. Not a phone call to the family checking on them. Not a bag to cover the funeral. A request for the chain back. And the internet lost its mind. But here's the thing nobody's talking about. Gucci finally opened his mouth about it. And what he said, it's going to make you look at this whole situation completely differently, because this wasn't just about a chain, fam. This was about ownership, loyalty, money, and what happens when the music industry machine keeps spinning even when somebody's dead in the ground. Because we've seen this before. We've seen labels swoop in after an artist dies and start making moves that look cold from the outside. We've seen families get left holding bills while executives count profits. But this situation, this one hit different because Gucci Mane wasn't some faceless corporate suit. He was supposed to be the OG, the big homie, the one who gives young kids from the hood a real shot. And that's exactly why what happened next cuts so deep. Y'all need to hear this. Let me break it all the way down. Alright, before we get into the drama, we gotta go back because you can't understand what happened with Gucci and this chain without understanding who Big Scarr actually was and what he meant to 1017 Records. Big Scarr, real name Alexander Woods, was a Memphis kid who came up the hard way. And when I say hard, I mean hard, gang. We're talking about a dude who survived a near-fatal car accident at 16 years old where he got thrown through a windshield. 16. Then in 2020, he got shot in the hip and the bullet went up into his lung. The bullet is still in his lung. When he went to the hospital, the bullet traveled all the way up to his spine and doctors had to remove his appendix and realign his right leg just to keep him alive. This dude survived things that would have ended most people twice before he even blew up. And what did he do with all that pain? He put it in the music, raw, unfiltered, no cap. His debut mixtape, Big Grim Reaper, hit number 25 on the Billboard 200. His track So Icy Boys with his cousin Pooh Shiesty and Fujiano is what put him on the map for real. That's the record that landed him a deal with Gucci Mane's 1017 Records back in 2020. Now, here's what makes this significant. Big Scarr didn't just look up to Gucci Mane as a boss. He looked up to Gucci like a legend from childhood. He talked in interviews about riding around with his mama as a little kid, 12, 13 years old, listening to Gucci's music. This was his idol, his role model. And then one day, he woke up and he was on the same label. That's a full circle moment. That's a dream come true type situation. Think about what that means for a second. A kid from Memphis who got thrown through a windshield, who got shot in the hip, who had every reason to give up on life. And instead of folding, he made music. He grinded. He connected with his cousin Pooh Shiesty. He got a shot. And the man who gave him that shot was the same man whose music kept him going when life was trying to take him out. That relationship meant something. At least on Scarr's side, it meant everything. And when Gucci signed him, he gave him a chain, a 1017 chain, custom, iced out, a symbol that said, "You're part of this family now. You're one of us." In the streets, that chain carried weight. It meant protection. It meant affiliation. It meant you had a big homie with a name that echoed across the entire culture watching your back. That chain meant everything to Big Scarr. And it's that same chain that would become the center of one of the most controversial moments in hip-hop in 2023. December 22nd, 2022, right before Christmas, gang. Big Scarr was found unresponsive at his girlfriend's home in Memphis, Tennessee. An accidental prescription drug overdose. He was 22 years old. 22. The hip-hop world went into shock. Gucci Mane himself posted a tribute. Long live Big Scarr. The internet flooded with love. Artists posted. Fans mourned. It felt like one of those moments where the whole culture just stops. But that's just the beginning. Because while everybody was grieving publicly, while the candles were being lit and the tributes were being posted, something else was happening behind the scenes. Something that would flip the narrative completely. Big Scarr's family was dealing with the logistics of burying their son. A $60,000 funeral in Memphis, Tennessee. And according to people close to the situation, Gucci Mane had promised to cover the funeral costs. Now, Think about what that promise means to a family in the middle of the worst moment of their lives. They just lost their son, their brother, their blood, and the man who was supposed to be the big homie, the label boss, the OG who looked out. He told them, "Don't worry about it." He had it. That kind of promise doesn't just mean money to a grieving family. It means somebody is in your corner. It means you're not alone. That promise is where this whole thing unravels. January 8th, 2023, barely 2 weeks after Big Scar passed, and Memphis rapper Quez Ruthless, Scar's brother, went on Instagram Live and just aired everything out. No filter, no warning, just raw pain turned into public accusation. The minute them folk called your phone to see if you was going to pay for the funeral, you blocked them. Block. Quez went in, fam. He said Gucci promised the family he'd cover the funeral, then ghosted them when they tried to follow up. And the reason Gucci allegedly gave for why he couldn't pay? Because his wife Keisha Cower's birthday was coming up. Gang, I need y'all to sit with that for a second. Your signed artist, a kid you watched grow up into a star, a dude who survived getting shot and thrown through a windshield just to make it to your label, just died. And the reason you can't cover his funeral is because your wife's birthday is approaching. That alone had the internet ready to go to war. But Quez wasn't done, because here's where it gets crazy. He also revealed that Gucci had sent a message to the family asking for the 1017 chain back. The chain Big Scar was given when he signed, the chain that was now sitting with his family after his death. Gucci wanted it back. And when he said that, the comment section exploded. Big Scar's sister, Alexandra Woods, jumped on immediately and co-signed everything her brother said. She posted, "He asked for the chains back, and no, he not getting them hoes back." And then she doubled down. "Get it back in blood. My brother earned this." She posted a photo of herself wearing the chain on Instagram for the whole internet to see. That was a statement. That was her saying, "Come and get it." Then the streets had a verdict before Gucci even opened his mouth. Now, here's where people started connecting the dots, because this situation was more complicated than it looked from the outside. The very next day, Gucci's team issued a statement to XXL. Short, direct. This information is incorrect. Gucci Mane paid $20,000 directly to the funeral home for Scar's funeral. $20,000 sent directly to NJ Ford and Sons funeral home in Memphis, Tennessee. And then Keisha Cower, Gucci's wife, came through with the receipts. Literally, she posted screenshots of 2 separate $10,000 payments on her Instagram. One from Gucci, one from Atlantic Records. She captioned it, "Leave my husband alone. He did this out of the goodness of his heart. We also sent flowers and not even a thank you." Now, here's where it gets layered, gang. Because even after the receipts dropped, Alexandra Woods acknowledged the money. She said, "Yeah, Gucci sent $10,000. Atlantic sent $10,000, but the funeral cost $60,000 total. What is 10K to 60? She said, "Gucci ain't help with nothing." So now we've got two truths existing at the same time. Gucci did pay something, but the family felt it wasn't enough. And nobody covered the full $60,000 that was owed. Here's what people weren't saying loudly enough, though. Atlantic Records, the major label that was actually distributing 1017's music and directly profiting off Big Scar's catalog, sent the same amount as Gucci, $10,000. Atlantic Records, one of the biggest music corporations on the planet, sent $10,000 for a funeral of an artist they were actively making money from. And somehow Gucci was the only one catching heat publicly. That's not me defending Gucci. That's me saying the whole machine was cold that day, not just one man. But here's the real tea that people slept on. Big Scar's father came out with a completely different take from his kids. The man went on Instagram Live and defended Gucci directly. He said, "First of all, I got to send shouts out to Atlantic Records, man. They gave my son a big boy chance. Gucci, I got to send shouts out to Gucci too. Y'all might not like it, but I got to give my boy what he did, man. He gave my son a major chance, man. I can't let y'all throw dude under the bus like that. Come on now. The truth is the truth." The father defended Gucci. So now you got the siblings saying Gucci did them dirty, and the father saying the siblings were out of line and don't speak for him. The family was split right down the middle on live internet television. And when a family can't even agree on what happened, that tells you this situation was messy on every level. There was no clean narrative, no clear villain, just grief, money, and miscommunication exploding in real time in front of millions of people. And through all of this, the payments, the receipts, the family beef, the chain situation was still sitting there unresolved because Gucci himself hadn't said a word about why he asked for it back. Let me break this down for you, because this is the part that really matters. In hip-hop culture, the label chain is not just jewelry. It's a symbol. It's a status marker. When a label boss gives you a chain, it means you've been accepted into the fold. You're part of the movement. For 1017, that chain was Gucci's brand walking around on someone's neck. His name, his reputation, his image on full display in the streets. Now, here's the thing people didn't think about when all this drama was popping off. Who paid for that chain? Gucci did. Who owns the intellectual property of that chain? The logo, the name, the brand, Gucci does. When Big Scar passed away, from a pure business standpoint, that chain was still a 1017 asset. Now, does that make it right to ask for it back 2 weeks after your signed artist died? That's a different conversation. But understanding the business logic changes the picture. And that's exactly what Gucci finally addressed. Because when Gucci did eventually speak on the situation, not in a formal press conference, not in a long statement, but through interviews and conversations that leaked into the culture, his explanation came down to a few key things. First, ownership. The 1017 chain was never a gift in the traditional sense. It was a symbol of an active business relationship. When that relationship ended, and death, unfortunately, ends contracts, the business side of things kicks in. The chain represented active membership in 1017 records. And Gucci's position was essentially that you don't keep the jersey when you're no longer on the team, even if the reason you're off the team is something as devastating as death. Now, I hear that from a corporate standpoint, that logic holds. But here's my question. Did Big Scar know that? When Gucci put that chain around his neck and said, "You're family now," did he also say, "Oh, but if you die, I'm going to need that back"? Because there's a difference between what a contract says and what a moment means to somebody. And for Big Scar, that chain wasn't a jersey. It was proof that his life meant something. Second, Gucci pointed to the risk of that chain being in the streets without the person who was supposed to carry it. Think about it, gang. That chain has Gucci Mane's name and brand on it. If it ends up getting stolen, sold, flipped, or worn by the wrong person, what does that do to the 1017 brand? What happens if somebody catches a body over that chain? What if it ends up on somebody's neck who's an enemy of the label? These are real concerns in the world these artists live in. We've seen rappers get killed over chains. We've seen chains end up on ops. That's not hypothetical. That's Tuesday in these streets. And honestly, if that's the real reason Gucci wanted it back, to protect the family from being targeted over expensive jewelry connected to a rap label in the middle of grief, then that's a conversation worth having. But that message never got communicated. Third, and this is the one people don't want to talk about, money. Gucci was already taking a loss with Big Scar's passing. He'd put money into the career, paid for studio time, advances, marketing, the chain, and now funeral costs on top of that. And he's being publicly dragged like he did nothing. From Gucci's perspective, and this is his explanation, not mine, he felt like he'd done right by Scar and his family, and the public blasting was unfair. Now, does any of this excuse the timing? No, absolutely not. 2 weeks after a 22-year-old kid died, while his family is grieving, is not the moment to be making business moves about chains. That's where Gucci lost the public. Not necessarily in the logic, but in the timing, in the optics, in what it looked like to everybody watching. Real recognizes real, fam. And that move didn't look real. It looked cold. Here's what happened next that shocked everyone. Quez Ruthless, the same brother who went on Instagram Live and blasted Gucci to the entire internet, eventually came back and apologized. He called it a misunderstanding, walked back some of what he said, and then, no cap, he shot a music video at Big Scar's funeral wearing the chains. Make that make sense. So, now you've got the brother who sparked the whole controversy walking it back, the father who defended Gucci from day one, the sister who's still on 10, and Gucci who's staying relatively quiet while his team handles the PR fallout. And meanwhile, what does Gucci actually do? He announces a posthumous Big Scar album. February 14th, 2023, Valentine's Day. Gucci takes to Instagram to announce The Secret Weapon, a 17-track posthumous project featuring Key Glock, Pooh Shiesty, Enchanting, S.G. Hendrix, and Gucci himself. He wrote, "My Secret Weapon Big Scar album drops this Friday. I hate that he's not here to celebrate this great body of work that he worked so hard on." Now, here's where you've got to use your critical thinking, gang, because there are two ways to read this. Either Gucci genuinely loves Big Scar's legacy and is trying to honor his music, or Gucci is a businessman who knows a posthumous album from a recently deceased young rapper is going to move units, stream numbers, and generate revenue. The truth is probably both. And that's the uncomfortable reality of the music industry that nobody wants to acknowledge out loud. Because the same industry that makes these young artists rich and famous is also the same industry that will monetize their death, own their masters, and reclaim their branded jewelry. That's not Gucci specifically, that's the machine. Big Scar survived a windshield at 16. He survived a bullet to his hip at 20. He made it to Gucci Mane's label. He made it to the Billboard 200. He was 22 years old with his whole career in front of him. And when he died, the conversation that emerged wasn't just about grief. It was about money owed, assets reclaimed, and a family left holding a $60,000 funeral bill, while the label that profited off their son was counting receipts and asking for jewelry back. I'm not here to cancel Gucci Mane. The man is a legend. He built something real from nothing. But caring about someone and protecting your business interests are not mutually exclusive. And sometimes the way you protect your business interests reveals more about your character than all the love you claim to have. Actions in the worst moments tell the truth that words in the good moments can hide. The timing of asking for that chain back told the streets everything they needed to know. So, where does this all leave us? Gucci Mane explained himself. He talked about ownership. He talked about brand protection. He talked about the business of 1017 records and what those chains represent. And honestly, the logic isn't crazy. In a cold, business-minded world, it makes complete sense. But we don't live in a cold, business-minded world. Or at least we shouldn't. Especially not when we're talking about a 22-year-old kid who wore that chain with pride because it meant he'd made it out. Sometimes the right move and the legal move aren't the same thing. Sometimes the human move and the business move aren't the same thing either. And the greatest leaders, the real OGs, know how to tell the difference. The music industry will always protect the bag. Artists need to protect themselves, their contracts, their masters, and their families before they ever accept a chain or a promise from a label. Because when it's all said and done, the chain goes back, the contract keeps generating revenue, and the family is left figuring out how to cover costs while the world moves on. Big Scar was real. His music was real. Rest easy, Scar. You earned that chain. No cap. Every link, every stone, every ounce of it. And to everybody watching, make sure you understand what you're signing before you sign it. Make sure the chain they put on your neck is truly yours, not just something they're letting you hold until the contract says otherwise. Because at the end of the day, in this industry, everything has a price. Everything has an owner, and not everything that shines is gold.